Good afternoon. Welcome to the fall member meeting. Our special guest today is Henry Delosier from GTA, the consulting firm. They've been helping us with our long-range plan. And as we're nearing the end of it, we thought we'd have Henry here to give us some remarks about how things went and what the next steps are going to be for that. We have a lot of material today, so let's take a look at the agenda real quick. You'll see it's pretty well packed. So in spring of last year, I spoke to a meeting like this, and I talked about the following topic: change. And I didn't really have any specifics. It was more of a conceptual idea. But the entire board of governors embraced the idea. And we were committed to following through on all of the suggestions and comments that came from the membership about where we were falling short in delivering the club for you. And so we tried our best last year, this year, and every day now to make improvements aligned with what you told us. And if you look at past surveys from members, one of the highest disappointments was in food and beverage. And with Chef Daniel Doyle and Mitchell firmly at the controls, I think many of you will agree that we have now conquered that challenge. So I wish Chef Doyle were here. I saw him today. We talked about a couple other things. And so these 4 features have made the club more accessible for you, and they've also, particularly the last 2, have addressed the larger number of members we have on the island. So I'll be coming to that in a second. And so some of the other things that you told us, we've reduced this dramatically. They're not 0. The golf course is mostly reserved now for a couple of charity events. And other than that, it's wide open. We've reduced the number of non-member weddings. Staff shortages. I remember during the COVID time that we had to close several of our venues because we didn't have people. And that was annoying to everybody. It was annoying to management, annoying to your board, annoying to you, annoying to me as a member. But that was the state of affairs. So the marching orders that we had were, we need to fix this. So we put employees first, and we now are fully staffed. We've elevated our compensation levels, and staff shortages are no longer an issue that we have to deal with. So these are not the entirety of the list of what you told us, but I thought that these were many of the major things. But after we concluded this work, your board felt that there was still an undercurrent of disappointment, that we could do more. And so we got to work on that. And so we did a few other things over the course of the last 18 months. This is a pretty popular place when the weather's good. Pelicans is now able to be used in bad weather. Pop-up events have been highly successful. I see many of you at many of them. We have the racket sports renovation underway. There's something in the survey about racket sports that I want to comment on. And that comment was that most members feel that every amenity that we have should be and perform at the highest level. And when we did the work at looking at racket sports last year, we determined that that amenity was not at the highest level and on par with the rest of what we did here. So that's why that project is underway. And who can complain about lobster for less than $40 for dinner? And the size of those lobsters, I don't know where that came from, but they're huge. The ocean. The ocean, yeah. Thank you, John. Okay. And there's some inside baseball. We made a series of policy changes for a much larger club that have helped us internally. And then, of course, Seabrook Island Club University to help our employees move up the ladder in their education and training. So that's the first two levels of change. Change that you brought to us, and change that we pushed back and delivered for you. So there's another element of change, and that's a change that was thrust upon us. And before I show this slide, I previewed it with a couple of members, and they were shocked at the data point. So let me put that up for you. It's not in the deck. Well, this is like live TV. Okay, so here's what the slide would show. Since 2018, so last 5 years, our club has added 400 new memberships. Most memberships are 2 people, so that's 800 people have come to our island. 300 of the 400, hey, we found it. How about that? That helps. To the rescue. So you can see what has happened. There's been a proliferation of people coming to Seabrook Island. And most are social and full members who tend to use the club a lot more. And of about 300 or so, many of them have elected to move here permanently. So this is a challenge that we have got to solve and confront in years ahead. We're working with Henry closely. We're working internally to try and figure out what to do with this. And you'll hear some remarks from the other speakers about some of the actions we've begun to take to deal with this capacity issue. But these people come to Seabrook Island for the same reason that you stay here. It's a great place to live. The secret of Seabrook Island is no longer a secret. So now we're trying to deal with this complex mix of challenges. And we're doing it in the context of an inflationary environment. We all know what inflation has done to our budgets. We all know what the numbers are. It was 9% last year. This year it's running at 4%. And inflation is an insidious thing because something that cost the club $100 at the beginning of 22 went up to $109 at the end of 22, and now it's gone up to $113. So somewhere we've got to make up $13 because it's not going back to 100. And so once inflation gets going, it sticks. So this is a challenge for us, and it's impacted all of our operations. I talked to Sean, and in 2020, when we did the irrigation on Ocean Winds, it cost the club $1.7 million. We're doing the same thing on Crooked, and it's 2.7. So in 3 years, it's gone up 58%. And Henry, I mentioned this to Henry before the meeting, and he said he's never seen the explosion in golf construction costs as he's seen in the last 24 months. So you're going to hear from some speakers today. I'm going to quit here in a second. Christine is going to talk about some membership changes that we're making for next year, significantly impacting new members, not existing members, new members for the most part. Todd's going to talk about the budget. Missy is here with Rick. They're going to give you an insight into the bylaw changes that have been underway and you'll be able to vote on in February. And then Henry will do the LRP process. So now I want to introduce Dr. Fred Osher, who has the results from the nominating committee process. So Dr. Osher, please.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you all for coming out. Whether it was inclement, it's a good time to be inside. I'm Fred Osher. I'm going to report on the nominating committee process and our recommendations. I first want to recognize my fellow committee members, Sue Doskell, Dean Goodwin, Mary Beth Faulkner, Henry Lee, and Randy Powell. I really want to thank them. I think we're a good group today, and we are a good group yesterday, and they will be, of those that are staying on, a good group tomorrow. But thank you for your service, all of you. Our committee charge was to identify and recommend the best nominees among voluntary applicants for the vacancies anticipated on the Board of Governors in 2024, to present that to all of you 75 days before the annual meeting. Our work was conducted following the current Seabrook Board of Governors bylaws concerning the nominating committee. The Board of Governors solicited applicants for the 2024 board by mass mailings on September 1st and again on September 13th with a deadline of September 20th of this year. Applicants submitted letters of interest explaining why they wanted to be on the board, what they believe they bring to the board. Two of the applicants were current board members seeking another term. All applicants were vetted with Lindsay Arnold, the membership director, as members in good standing. Our committee met 7 times between September 14th and November 2nd. We had Jim, as board president, come and tell us what he thought future needs of the board might be. We had Mitchell join us as well for a meeting to share his view on what skill sets would be important to the board moving forward. Each of our applicants were assigned a lead on the nominating committee who educated and informed the applicant of the process, solicited 3 references, called those references, later reported out on those references. All applicants were interviewed. All committee members were present at all interviews. Up to 1 hour was spent with each candidate. And follow-up discussions, the leads provided information that they had gleaned from their call and conversations with references. And following the completion of the interviews, the 5 voting members, the chair does not vote, they rank ordered their preferences among the candidates, sent that to me. I aggregated the results, presented it back to them at a meeting anonymously, and that was the quantitative part of our selection process. That generated a discussion about the qualities of the candidates and led to consensus on recommendations to the board for this year's candidates. The committee consensus for the Board of Governors is reflected in this slide. These will be your incoming members. 2 of them, Rick and Patty, are re-upping, and we are so grateful for the continuity of service that they bring in addition to their skills and expertise. Ellie Ward and Donald Brown will be new on the board this time. The Board of Governors plans to hold 1 or more Meet the Candidates events ahead of the annual meeting so you can understand a little bit more about interests of the board members coming in and those on the board now. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. That's my report.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Peck with the Seabrook Island Real Estate. I'm the current acting broker. And let's get right to it. We've got 1 slide here. Kind of gives you a good picture of where we are this year and where we were last year at this time. As you can see, inventory is still lacking versus the number of homes, villas, and home sites that we have sold this year versus last year. The interesting part is the average price sale is still increasing. Probably the biggest decline there in volume are the home sites, but also one of the largest increase in average prices. We currently have a shortage of homes and certainly the home sites. We are seeing an increase in villa listings and are starting to sense a change in villa pricing. Those are trends that we are staying on top of and working to try to keep those villa listings coming in with a little more of a reasonable price point to keep them sold. So there you have it. Current.
There was one other point. We cut Tom's time a little short because we've got a lot to cover. But right now, there are 68 homes under construction on the island, 68. There are 33 in the process of being built. And there's about 150 lots remaining to be developed. And I got all those data points from Sapoa this morning. So the beat goes on, the inventory of lots is being built, and we're closer and closer to build out every year now. So we're inching up on it. Okay, Rick.
Hello, everyone. So I've been asked to give you a quick peek into a vote that we're going to need to have at the February annual meeting regarding bylaws. Right away, most of your eyes should be rolling in the back of your heads. What are bylaws? They're the rules that govern the operations of this club. And so they're sort of important. And here's the key thing that's up there, which is we haven't had a major revision of these things in 30 years. 1991 was the last time we revised these. Now, we've done some bylaw changes. It seems like looking back on it, 5 to 10 years or so, we do a little bylaw change, but they're very specific. So, this is the first time we've done a bylaw change since 1991, and need I say, they've needed it. So, it's taken a long time. We've standardized language. We hired a consultant to help us who does bylaws. Can you imagine? There's actually a person who does that. We hired someone to help us do this. They've incorporated best practices that are used in clubs around the country. We've adopted a lot of our rules to reflect the evolving island demographics that are going on here, because again, 30 years, things have changed. But most importantly, we've got to comply with South Carolina laws, because believe it or not, they've changed a little bit in 30 years. And once we started reviewing this, we thought, we got all kinds of things we need to change. And so, bottom line is, this has been a year-long project of the board. It's led by Missy. I'm just up here giving a speech. She's the one who did all the real work, and she's got a whole team of both board members and some club members to spend countless hours. I can't even tell you. They basically spent so many hours, I don't even want to face it, but you know, the bottom line is they're mind-numbing hours. You know, you're into ad nauseum detail and trying to make sure the definitions, we use this term in this section, do we use it in this other section, just to make the rules make sense. And so that's been going on, but I know from a board perspective, when we sit and review these things, even those meetings are not mind-numbing for the board members, just like, I can't believe you guys spent all this work. So anyways, that's what's going on. Now, next slide. What do you need to know about this from your perspective? Okay, I've told you now how, this has been going on forever. What do you need to know? What you need to know is this, that current bylaw section 9.1 empowers the board to change the bylaws when they need to change it, and the board can approve most of these changes. But if there's a possibility that a bylaw change impacts the rights of a member, you have to take it to a member vote. And so that means there's going to be several items that are going to need member votes come February that you all have to vote on. And it's not bad things. When I said it affects members' rights, it's good or bad. And so, like for instance, the one section that you'll have to vote and approve is there will now be member approval for capital additions above 2.5 million, which we didn't have in the bylaws before. And so there's things like that. And so what we're going to do is in the next, I think Missy was just telling me, in the next week or two, they'll be released on either email blast or somehow it'll be links to everyone, that you'll have summaries of what's in the bylaws, as well as maybe even the real language in all these bylaws. And then our thought is, around sometime in December and January, we'll do a coffee or meeting or two, we'll have a Zoom meeting or two, so people can ask questions after they've looked over the materials, if you have any thoughts, or things like that that you wonder about and want to know, we're going to have those sessions. And then the last thing is, the bottom line is, we need you to vote. Because, and when you do a bylaw change, you have to have the members voting on this. So we can't get by with only 25% of the members voting. We need the members to vote. So we want you to participate in the information sections that we have in summaries, so you know what you're voting on. But we want you to vote, and we need your votes when this comes up in February. And with that, I've been given 5 minutes, and I think I only used 3 or 4.
Okay, the scary part. Good afternoon, I'm Christine Iaconis, and I'm the board membership chair. It has been another busy year on the club's membership committee. At the beginning of our year, we set out to answer 2 important questions. 1, do our current joining levels align with the amenities offered in them and the associated cost with them? And 2, are we able to manage future amenity capacity with our current joining levels? The pursuant discussions the membership committee had around these questions spanned many months and many hours. I want to personally thank the members of this committee for their patience and mostly for their perseverance. It is with pleasure we are introducing new membership joining levels beginning in 2024. Let me clearly state again, these are for new members joining in 2024. So why have we felt it necessary to change the joining levels? As we all know, the club has seen unprecedented growth. This new membership structure will better help us manage the risk of overcapacity on our golf courses, on our tennis and pickleball courts, and at our equestrian center. Also, our club will be better financially aligned with industry standards under the new joining structure. Therefore, beginning January 1, 2024, any new member who joins the club will elect their membership level from the new structure: golf, racket sports, neighborhood, or home site. I need to take a moment and have a brief discussion on what's the difference between a club certificate and club dues. The most basic explanation is the level you pay to join the club is the certificate you hold. This is currently labeled as full, social, community, unimproved lot, or possibly a grandfathered level of sports or non-resident legacy. Please note, you never received an actual paper certificate. It is merely a term used by membership to denote your joining level. However, your dues level may differ from the certificate you hold. This level is the monthly amount billed by the club. The benefits and privileges you receive align with the billed amount. There are some members whose dues and privileges are lower than their joined certificate level. Many of you sitting here today are thinking, so how does this impact me? If you're happy with the amenities offered within your current membership and dues level, it does not impact you at all. You do not need to do anything different. If you've considered upgrading your membership certificate and like one of the current joining levels, full, social, or community, you will have a full year in which to upgrade. If you're interested in transferring your membership certificate to one of the new levels, golf, racket, or neighborhood, You can do this at any point after January 1st, 2024. So what do these new membership levels look like, and how do they compare to our current membership levels? The new golf is similar to full, except amenity fees for rental guests are no longer waived. Racket Sports is our new middle tier of membership. It offers unlimited tennis and pickleball. If you want golf privileges, you will pay at the member rate. Time of play will be based on availability and managed by the pro shop. Also, amenity fees for rental guests are no longer waived. Neighborhood is our new entry level of membership. Golf and racket sports are at a member rate and have time of day restrictions associated with them. Home site is self-explanatory. Those who purchase a lot on Seabrook Island. This level will have the most restrictions with regards to rates, greens, and court availability. Having said the new joining levels apply to new members to Seabrook Island, they could also apply to those of you who find one of the new levels more attractive and would like to make a switch. Important dates for our current members to keep in mind. January 1st, 2024, new membership levels take effect for new members. December 31st, 2024. This will be the last day for current members to upgrade their certificate within the old structure, full, social, or community. But remember, if you're happy where you are, great, stay put. December 31st, 2026 will be the last day for current members to upgrade or downgrade their dues level to remain within the old structure. Transferring to the new structure can happen at any time, but once you transfer, you can't come back to the old structure. I know this is a lot of information, and many of you have questions today, tomorrow, and in a month from now. With that being said, the membership department has 3 scheduled information sessions. Some will be in person, and some will be a combination of virtual and in-person. The first session is going to take place tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. in the Carolina room, right out there. There's no need to register, just drop by. Lindsay Arnold will be there, I will be there, we will be happy to go over any details you need. An e-blast will be sent with registration links for the December and January sessions. Remember, any administrative questions along with upgrade and downgrade requests, please email the membership office. Lindsay, Cheryl, or Leah will get back to you. For any policy-related questions, please email the board. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Linda LaBridge, head of the Long Range Planning Committee. The room's a little fuller today than it was back in August. How many people were here in August? Yeah, it was a really nice day outside, so that's why everybody's here. So what we're here to talk about, Henry and I, really is where we are in the long range planning process. What are some of the things we've learned along the way, and what are some of the next steps? We've been working on this since March of 2023. We've learned a lot. I think the most important thing from my perspective is we've learned from you as members. How many people were in the focus groups that we had back in April? Okay, good. We got lots of really good feedback from you. How many people responded to the survey? Perfect, that's great. Henry's got some, oh, my hands went up. Henry's got some statistical information about who participated in the survey. I'm really excited that we had all the levels of membership really participate and give their opinions. So thank you very much for that. And by the way, the survey results, question by question, are on our club website. So if you click on long range planning and look at documents, I know you've already done this already, right? Committed as a member. Some really interesting statistics on how members feel about a variety of issues. So Henry, I'd like to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what's going on.
Thank you, Lynn.
Oh, you don't need that.
I don't need that. I just need a song and a prayer. I think it's important as we kind of get into the strategic plan. All of you know what a strategic plan is. I'm not going to try to tell you that. I think it's important that you know that what we learned in this process, especially in the focus groups, this phrase that was often repeated was, we need to decide who we are. Which I thought was kind of interesting, seeing as how Seabrook's been here for these many years. And at the same time, a lot of people are wanting to understand that. Also trying to determine how will the club allocate resources? How will we decide what our priorities are? And of course, as you know, whenever it comes to money, everyone has an opinion. So that became an important thing for us. And then of course, we, having originated as a firm, as a part of KPMG, our firm really enjoys finance and financials. So we looked a lot at financial projections. And let us share with you some of the things we think we learned from that process. In the process itself, as Lynn made mention, we started clear back in March. Here we are, and we're nearing the finish line. For those of you who can't see through me, we're expecting that by this time next month, we will have pretty much completed all the work that goes into creating the strategic plan at Seabrook Island Club. You see that we did a lot of research and data analysis. We spent a great deal of time understanding member viewpoints. And I want to tell you some of that. For those of you, any of you who haven't had a chance to look at the member survey yet, our survey report is available on the website, which I think is fantastic. I encourage you, pay attention to the differences by gender and generation. Those are two important factors for you to understand. Those are things that we look at first and foremost. At Seabrook Island Club, we also look at membership type and your residential orientation to Seabrook Island. You see, we had a response rate at 42%, which in a community of this size, we issued almost 2,000 surveys, 1,723. The confidence interval at 42% response rate for that number of surveys comes in less than 3%. So as we often hear during election time, the margin of error, that's confidence interval, most easily interpreted. You see the categorical distribution of the responses that we received. 253 in what we call unique respondents, means each individual who responded. We issued the survey to each member of every domestic partnership. So in a traditional context, husband and wife. 253 of those in full, 340 social, 601 community members, and 45% on lot, I'm sorry, I said 45%, 65 respondents in the lot category. So terrific participation, yielding a great deal of information for everyone and providing terrific guidance for the strategic planning process, as well as for your board in making its many other decisions. So as you look at that and you say, so what are the big things we learned? 78% satisfaction level, that's low. Normally in clubs like yours, we see a response rate that's about 10%, 10 points higher than what you're showing there. The benchmark range of normal response rates, somewhere between 86 and 92%. And of course, you think about that with all of the things that have been happening at Seabrook Island Club, the 78% satisfaction level kind of speaks for itself. Overall satisfaction on a Likert scale of 1 being worst, 5 being excellent, you see at 3.92 overall satisfaction. The low end of that benchmark range at 3.8, high end of the benchmark range at 4.2 says overall satisfaction is quite good. It also shows you that 9 out of 10 of you feel very good about the value that you're paying for your membership. So that's a key indicator for us as well. One of the most important takeaways that I got, the rating for the club communications, 85%, and a benchmark range of 84 to 93 is a good indicator. What we heard in focus groups was that the club is not doing a good job of communicating. So that becomes a real key. And by the way, as a frame of reference, everywhere we go, we hear dissatisfaction with club communications. I hear that question, I hear that comment so often that anymore I ask a follow-up question in focus groups, which is when people say communications are poor, I ask the question, what is it you think you're not being told? And the most common answer I receive, these are my words, not someone else's, but the most common answer I receive is, well, I don't know, but I just know there's a bunch of stuff going on. And you know, the fact is, we're living in skeptical times. Skepticism is one of the realities of the day, and it certainly comes up in terms of your satisfaction with your Board of Governors. Your 2023 rating of 3.15 compares to the low end of the benchmark rating of comparable clubs at 3.6. You look and you say, when you ask people for their sense of satisfaction, if that goes to communication, that goes to a feeling of transparency, that goes to, do I like these people? And I'll give your board credit on this transparency business that you already have access to a lot of this information. I think that's a healthy sign. As we take a look at your amenities, you see very favorable rankings right on down the list until you get down here to the beach club and pool, to pickleball, and to onboarding. One of the things that I find interesting in our work is, 10 years ago, nobody even knew what the pickleball experience was. And now you're concerned that you want it to be better. The other is onboarding program, as Jim called out, 400 new members? Memberships. So almost 800 new members. And that suggests to you that there's a sense that we need to be sure these newcomers are getting the rules of the road right. We want to be sure that they understand our traditions and our practices here at the club. So that's a very natural part of your process and part of your transition. Those three categories are ones that deserve attention and will get attacked. I know Mitchell well enough to know that he's well ahead of the curve on that. You look at that and you say, well, gosh, this is pretty favorable. Great response rate, decent satisfaction levels, but all's not perfect at Seabrook, even at Seabrook. And here are some of the things where people express concern that they have the greatest range of differing opinions. What renter fees and access privileges are, people's tolerance to pay for enhancements, willingness to fund capital projects, additional food and beverage outlets, structure and alignment of the membership. Those are fairly common issues of concern in most clubs, and I think because of the size and scale of operations at Seabrook Island Club, they're even more pronounced. So that certainly doesn't come as a surprise, shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you, and yet all of those points deserve your attention and certainly deserve the attention of your board. And then, as you say, so, okay, what's supposed to happen next? We're, as I said, nearing the finish line. I hope you will invite me to come back sometime in late December or early January so I can report on the final results of the strategic plan. Our firm is proud to have been called to action at Seabrook Island Club. We want to see this process through and see that the strategic plan for the future at Seabrook Island is on solid footing and takes you in a direction that can be favorable. And there's one thing I wanted to just add after Christine's terrific report on the membership deliberations. One of the things that clubs run into all the time is the sense that once membership arrangements are made, they're unchangeable, but they change all the time. Membership demand, membership utilization are factors that cause the club to have to adjust based on what it sees. And so that's something that's important for everyone to take away. We're trying to build in that flexibility into your strategic plan so that as you look to the future, servant leaders like the ones that are arrayed here before you have tools with which they can work to continue the good work that's being done now. So with that said, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
They always save the budget for the end after everybody's done stuff. So, look, I'll be honest. I have about 10 minutes to go over the budget. It's not enough time to go through the detail that most of you are going to want. I'm going to stay after this when we get through at 5 o'clock. You're welcome to come up. If I don't have the answer, I'll write it down and I'll get it to you. But there's just a lot of information to cover. Really, on the next slide, if you haven't done a corporate type budget before, it's hard to understand how much work goes into it. So these are all the different groups that were involved kind of in a chronological order. What I really want to point out to you is that your board spent about 5 to 6 hours discussing and deliberating the fine-tuning of the budget. And I really appreciate, you know, in the role of your treasurer, that type of collaborative feedback. You got a better product as a result of it. So I'm very pleased with that. This next particular, oh, go ahead. Go ahead. This next particular slide for me is the most important slide in the deck. We talk about this every year. In the top section, you've got, this is where our funds come from and how they're used to fund operations. In the second section you have, this is how we fund all of our capital needs. I want to spend a little bit of time, well, one, that net cash from operations, just think of it as net income and then we add depreciation back to it. I'm going to spend a lot more time on that number because there are a lot of components, dues and expenses, all those things that go into it. But I want to go back into the 2023 budget process a little bit. I was, no, don't give it yet. I was a little nervous, quite honestly, when we were doing the 2023 budget because you can see that we were budgeting for a shortfall in our operations and we were budgeting for a shortfall in our needs to fund capital. And we consciously did that because we felt like we were in a very positive position cash-wise. And then if we got some bad surprises, we'd be able to weather it and get through, and then we'd get to where we needed to be. Well, look what happened in 2023. Okay, so our net cash, we missed that number by roughly $600,000. Two components: insurance. They went up, we budgeted for a 25% increase. They came in higher than that. That was $300,000. And the rest of it's in food and beverage. And I was really happy to see Jim note at the very beginning that we made conscious decisions in quality, your service experience, and the availability of food and beverage for membership, and it costs money to do that. So that's where the difference is on those two. That ERTC credit, that's from the government, okay? That's part of COVID relief that we've received, and you know, it was a huge benefit to us, but it's not gonna happen again, okay? That's the bottom line. The real estate office, a good strong contribution for them, and then you have our mortgage payment. So, you know, we almost, in 2023, we're gonna be really close to that break-even number, and that's a great outcome. But some things happen that aren't gonna happen again. Now the next section, no, not yet. That's it. It's the most important slide in the deck, so let's spend some time with this. The next section, look at all the money we've invested in capital. Okay, we kicked off 2 major projects, and I had a lot of other stuff going on. So $7.3 million. We may come in a little less than that, you know, by the year, but that's not a bad number. Look at the new member joining fees. One of the most important decisions we've made in a club in the past 5 years has been to increase that joining fee. Okay, that is a record-setting number there. That number's net. We voluntarily repaid back about $1 million of the refundable assessment that was done years ago. Our resignations only total about $100,000. Not many people left. So, you know, we broke even basically on our capital spending. So we didn't have the decrease in cash that we thought we were going to have when we started this process. That's great. But, you know, these things, you know, counting on them to happen year after year just isn't a healthy way to do it. So this year you'll see that the net cash from operations and what's being contributed from real estate is close to that break-even line. We still have not planned for our dues and other income coming in to cover in our debt service, okay? While we're still in a cash surplus, I'm okay with that right now. You know, hopefully those things will continue, but if it doesn't, then you'll see us talk about that more. The capital spend, we're still gonna have a big year for capital because we're gonna finish Crooked Oaks and we're gonna finish the Racket Sports renovation. We do have a lot of maintenance type items across the club that we're having to fund next year, and I'll show more detail on that. But that new member joining fees, it's still a large number, even in a year when we're a little concerned about where the real estate market's headed. Okay, so I think it's the first time we've ever budgeted for what we really think is going to happen on new member joining fees. So this is your budget right now, and you can see the net cash impact of doing these things is cash going down $2 million, still having a healthy $9.2 million in cash at the end of the year, which is well above our reserve cash of 5.7. Okay, now it's fine. All right, let's talk about cash reserves. They have not changed. Okay, they're still at 5.7. You can see why they're there, and we've been doing this for a long time. Before you think that's too much, just think about what happens if we get a major storm. Okay, that money needs to be there. We've got cleanup efforts which don't get insured. We have deductibles in our insurance of almost $2 million. That money's needed. Next slide, please. All right, look down at the bottom, that negative $600,000, that was that first line. In that first one, these are all the components that go into this. Bottom line is you've got income revenues going up 9%, you have expenses going up 8%. A lot of ins and outs. Insurance for us is still going to be a driver of some of these costs. We're expecting that to go up another $300,000. That's in the other expenses. We are investing a lot of time in trying to figure out ways we can reduce our insurance costs. Okay, we're thinking about not insuring some buildings and going self-insured. We're thinking about lots of different things. Our renewal is on March 1st. But we still have a senior term loan with Bank of America. We can't change anything without their permission. And so we're working through that now. But insurance is still a major driver for us. Other noteworthy things. The employee stuff, I want to talk about compensation. So that increase of roughly $1 million, there's a lot of things that go into that. Our average salary increase, if you want to get down to it, is 3% going into next year. Okay, so it's a pretty low percentage, a well-managed number looking person by person. So where's the rest of it coming from? Our health insurance for employees is not increasing at inflation. Okay, that's going to increase 7.5% to 8% this coming year. The other side of it too is it's costing us more to get employees here and having them stay. What do I mean? Temporary housing and transportation are real cost items for us to be able to attract and retain employees, and that is increasing in order for us to be competitive. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to talk about dues in a second, but I wanted to show you this first. All right, so here's a comparison of our historical dues increases compared to CPI. Everything you had some early years in 13 through 15 where the rates varied between the different membership levels. But then you get into this 2016 through 2019 period of time where dues increases overall, it was one dues increase across the board, all categories, and it really stayed aligned with CPI. Then we got into a situation in 2020 and then 2021 where those things kind of got out of whack. Why did they get out of whack? Between the payroll protection program loan of $1.5 million that was forgiven in 2020 and the $1.6 million in the ERTC credit we got from the government in 2023, we've gotten a lot of relief. And so there hasn't been that pressure. But the trend, you can't continue with the trend because those things aren't going to continue to happen. So we've got to get these things closer in line again. And quite frankly, we've got to do a little catch up, to do that. Next slide. All right, so in this budget that you just saw, I took the next slide. There you go. All right, so here's what dues look like for next year. This is the difference I didn't list every category, and some of them are different. So these are the major categories where most people are. Obvious question is, why is full unlimited going up at a different rate than full? Okay, that's because we changed the golf carts. Golf carts are more expensive, and unlimited members are gonna pay their fair share of that increase in cost, just like every other membership category is gonna do. But then, changing the other percentages a little bit, quite frankly, this is a credit to the membership committee and their detailed work about the value of the amenities they access and what they have to pay for out of pocket. So this was a recommendation for them to right size a little things like that in the dues. So we thought that was the fairest approach. Okay, next slide. These are the components. You'll see member dues going up, that 12%. The question I get is, well, you said it's 7 to 11%, the dues are going up 12%. You've got a full year of the increase of membership that you've got. You've got some different categories that go a little bit above that 11%, but that's how we get to 12% overall. Amenity fees are going up as well. That one's not as simple to say, it's this percentage, that percentage, it's detailed, and there's a schedule for that. F&B, 9%. Look at the non-member events, the weddings. It's going down. Okay, we are not advertising for weddings at all anymore. And our booked weddings for 2024 is about half what it was for this year for non-member weddings. That was direction from our membership, that they didn't want that. We had to pay for that. All right, next slide. This was interesting to me. People wonder about, well, where does the money come from? These are our major categories. So, as always, dues is roughly 45% of our total revenue. But then you get into amenity usage. Those are the other categories, and it's who uses it. So we always look like, what is the balance between what our members are paying for in their amenities to our resort guests? And this shift on the far right, you can see where we actually had the resort guest percentage go down some from last year. And so we're getting into that discussion of, well, what's right side? We went through COVID. When is COVID really over? And so we know 21 and 22, we had a lot more people here, a lot more members, but also a lot more guests. And then we feel that this is more getting normalized more in 2023, if that helps. But I think that's always an interesting thing to look at. Expenses I've touched on briefly. Things I'll point out is that things we've done differently, the credit card fees. We've been a short-term bank for members, quite honestly, charging dues on their credit cards and not charging enough fees for them to do that way. That was costing us over $100,000. We're not going to do that anymore. We're not a bank. So there's going to be an increased fee if you decide to use your credit card to pay your member dues, because we have to pay the fee. Okay, so that's going to be a change on January 1st. You can see the change on commercial insurance, and you can also see the change on our cart lease program. But the cart lease program change overall is a good thing for us, because the revenues we're going to charge from that are going to more than make up for that. So that's not a loss thing. Next slide. Key assumptions that are listed here. Or just so you know, well, when I think I've spoken to all these, I didn't speak about the reserve fee increase. It's 10% just to get us in line with what we think the normal need's going to be on the capital side. I think it's roughly, some people pay up to $900 a year in a reserve fee, so it's a $90 increase for the year. I should put it in dollar terms, to be honest with you. But I think I've covered all those other things. CapEx. All right, this is every project that's over $150,000 that's on our plan next year. Crooked Oaks and the irrigation program and the racket sports renovation I've spoken about a little bit. The pump station, we don't have a choice in terms of replacing equipment. The laundry facility, I am happy and proud that that's there. We've talked before about 4 or 5 significant items we need to upgrade and change for our employees. This is tops on the list, for them. So we're sticking to that promise. We're not going to be able to do them all at once, but we prioritize, and this is the one that we really need to get done. The other ones, you know, you can read. We are going to do some seawall restoration work in the Pelican's Nest area. If I've been to Pelican's Nest and, you know, eating at high tide, and, you know, we're all concerned about how high water levels are there right now. So we're going to do what we can there. Of the $6.6 million, probably about $700,000 of it is for new items. Okay, we're really repairing things. Most of that $700,000 of the pickleball court addition. Every project that's in the approved capital plan will be in the minutes. That will be posted shortly from our last board meeting. Full disclosure, it's all there. And I think that's all I have. And I will be here after for detailed questions, because I'm sure some people have. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who made a presentation today. Well organized. I think a lot of information out there. So if you have a question, please approach the microphone and state your name and have at it.
Sure. So my name is Pam Nelson, and a lot of people have been asking a lot of questions about variance 184. What is it, and how does it affect us? Also, they have a lot of questions about the racket club plans. Can you talk about that, as well as how we got there, and what does it mean?
I think Mitchell is on this, so.
Thank you.
So he's.
Repeat the question, Jim.
So the question is variance 184. That's at the town zoning commission, and that deals with the location of the pickleball courts at the Racket Sports Center, and it also addresses the variances that we need in order for that work to go through. So, please.
I will do my best. So allow me to kind of give you a high-level overview of where we are and where we hope to go, knowing that this is a moving target, and we are smack dab in the middle of it right now. So this started actually even before I got here. So the master plan of that racket facility, under the leadership, I think, of Jamie Ryan at the time, and the Racket Sports Committee and the board, started 3 years ago with a lot of surveying, understanding the needs, and pickleball was top on the list. When I arrived here, there was somewhat of a plan that existed, but it really wasn't, it didn't incorporate land planning, so it wasn't using all the land that we had in that area to the best of its use. So at that point, we engaged a land plan architectural firm to help walk us through what the different possibilities are. And do know that we've been on this for probably 16, 17 months now. And the committee, the architectural group, everyone we've brought in from the surveyors have looked at all the different possibilities. So know that everything from taking out tennis courts to different places of moving these courts, they've all been discussed, they've all been analyzed. And we believe right now that we're in the best place we possibly could be to deliver a quality product, knowing that that's where we want to go, is making sure all of our amenities are at the highest level. So when you look at this from an industry perspective, know that a new community or an existing community that's looking to get into pickleball, that the formula that's being used right now is 1.5 courts per 100 rooftops. For here, that means 33 courts. We're talking about 5. So what we did, we were originally had the courts positioned due to what our architects were telling us under the canopy of the trees. We walked through that for a while. We had our submittals with DHAC. DHAC, we didn't know if it was going to take 6 months or a year. In that meantime, we got a lot of feedback from members. We got a lot of feedback from other people. We ended up moving architectural companies, and they helped us with getting these courts onto the parking lot area where they're currently looking to be placed. Putting on the parking lot level establishes a few things that we wanted to accomplish. One was safety. We needed to make sure our members were safe while using the courts, and being under that canopy would create a very moist environment, a lot of tree droppings, and we just didn't feel that that was in the best interest of our membership. Socially, They were off to the side and not attached to the club, where we hope to do more at the club. From socializing with beer and wine and having little mixers and things like that, with the courts being positioned where we're hoping they're going to be now, that's going to allow for that. And then environmental, and that was probably one of the biggest things that the committee took into consideration, especially with our paperwork sitting with DHAC. When we moved it to where the parking lot is now, that is an impervious condition there, where we would have been creating an impervious condition under the trees when the courts went in there. So when we made that move with a net neutral impervious condition, DHAC pretty much that's why they gave us a quicker okay to move forward. So those factors were all brought into consideration, and kind of that's where we're sitting with today. The last aspect of that is, I know there's been a lot of banter with regard to the trees. That was all taken into consideration. And if you look at, basically, we're adding, just so everybody understands at the end of the day, well, first of all, the landscape hardscape project added 3 oak trees. So we're already 3 ahead before we even start this project. But with adding 34 additional trees, 415 shrubs that'll be going in, 732 grasses. In addition, we're going to go 5-to-1 with oak trees, with adding them throughout the property. We will be well within our remediation guideline, and we hope that that's our contribution at the end of the day to make sure from an environmental perspective, we're doing what's necessary to balance the needs of all. Does that help?
Thanks for the overview, Mitchell. Next question?
Hello, I'm Ed Leary. I want to congratulate you guys on doing a great job. I'm one of the 13.574% of the pool members. I guess I'm always concerned because I'm paying about $4,000 more than the next class down a year, $9,000 more than one below me. And every year I pass on my list of 20 or so things that you could do for pool members that aren't going to cost a lot of money, and every year nothing happens. I would just like 2 pony rides. Is there 4 pony rides instead of 2 for what I pay?
Thank you for your question. Anybody else? Okay, so we have somebody coming from the outfield.
Hello, my name is Jack Hunt, and my question has to do with the sports membership. And I received a letter, about 2-3 weeks ago, saying that that membership was going to be changed significantly. And I would kind of like to know what was the rationale behind the changes, and exactly what, and not too sure exactly what the changes will be.
Christine.
Thanks, Jack, for that question. I know Lindsay Arnold is here, and she reached out to the sports members and is willing to talk to each and every one of you. Sports membership was a grandfathered legacy membership that ended in 2006. Currently, our sports members receive 50 rounds of golf or 100 rounds of 9. Social members receive 25 rounds of golf or 50 rounds of 9. Sports members pay less than $1,000 a year more. $10 more a month. I lied. Less than, way less. $10 more a month. So, the good news and the bad news, you guys have had it great since 2006. The bad news is, it's time to pony up. You may stay a sports member, but your dues are going to go up. Or you may drop to social membership, and receive 25 rounds of golf or 50 rounds of 9. And we will be happy to walk you through the usage that you currently use, Jack. Lindsay has that in her office. You can even come tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock and she will have that for you. And we will find the best joining level or membership level for you for the usage that you are using now.
Okay, I appreciate that. Though the rounds of golf are a little bit misleading because in the August 20 years I've had the membership, I doubt I've used 100 rounds of golf.
Correct. So exactly why you should move to social membership, because you don't use any golf, Jack. You are a perfect example of the person that is a tennis player. You may even want to move to the new membership level, and that may benefit you more. That's why we're giving everybody a full year. So please come and talk to us. If you can't come tomorrow, reach out to Lindsay. She will walk you through. But you are the prime reason that we are realigning the membership levels.
Great,
Thanks, Jack.
We love you.
Okay, Dan.
Hello, I'm Dan Parker, and I live on Long Branch Drive, and I'm president of our Horseshoe Cove HOA. And the concern about the new racket courts is the noise that it'll bring. Question is, have any sound studies been done as part of the process?
I don't know the answer to that question. The answer is no.
Oh, okay.
We are looking at rackets and balls and paddles that will decrease. If we look at putting us netting around,
That's good.
but we're going to do a lot of landscaping to try and soften the
So,
noise.
yeah. The noise is a huge issue for our neighborhood and the surrounding homes there. It's going to change the quality of life. Something to consider. I would encourage a sound study. Because from what I've read and looked into, sound is one of the biggest problems with pickleball courts. And neighbors, there's lawsuits all across the country against pickleball. Cities are taking them out, clubs are taking them out. So I would just highly recommend looking into that. And there's sound engineers that specialize in pickleball. Yeah, I've got a name of one if you want.
Okay, we'll find one.
Yeah, it's very easy to Google on the internet. So there are sound engineers that are looking into pickleball noise.
Very good, thank you.
George Fink, you mentioned changing the bylaws for $2.5 million approval for the membership
For capital projects.
for capital projects. And we saw, you talked about, we have almost a considerable amount of capital projects now. We have $7 and $6 million, and when I looked at that list, and none of them were above $2.5 million. So are we ever going to actually vote on a capital project? And should we consider reducing that amount so that if there's $1 million capital project or $1.5 million, that we could actually vote on
The nature of the club has changed over the last 5 years. So even those data on membership, I had another data point on the club that I didn't share because I didn't think it was necessary, but now it is. So in 2018, the total assets of the club were $35 million. Right now, they're $60 million. So if we go down to $1 million for a capital approval, in this day and age, with the cost of materials, workmanship, and so forth, we're going to be bringing every project that we have for a vote. And for a club this size, that's just not realistic. So that's why it's 2.5.
Also, the assessment formula.
Use the speaker, Missy.
The assessment formula currently in the bylaws calculates out to about $2.5 million.
Okay, next question.
Hi, my name's Bob Murray. I've lived here for a while. I have a question. When I was president of the club, the racket sports area took a backseat. Every year we were looking at capital investments and so on. And as I was ending my tenure as I was ending my tenure, the thought was it was going to cost about $2 million to bring that facility up to speed. And COVID came and time passed and it went to $4 million. And I was wondering, in aggregate, how much money we ultimately are going to spend on bringing the tennis facility up to speed.
4 is the number that we have and that we're planning for. But you can always build the Mercedes-Benz, right, over there. And so there'll always be things that we could otherwise do. And that's true not only there, but it's true on the golf range, it's true at equestrian, etc. So right now, that's the number that we're sticking with. 2 or 3 years from now, there may be another enhancement that people want to do over there. We'll just have to see how that plays out.
Well, I fully understand that. Does the $4 million number that you quote include the 1.7 that we're spending next year?
Yes.
Okay. So you really are pretty much on budget. Is that right?
Some things out, but we pulled some things out of the plan.
The only thing, we got approval from the board internally for this to be a $4 million project. As been noted, the cost of construction have gone through the roof. And so we're committed to staying to $4 million unless we come back to the board and say we really need to do something else. In this particular plan, the first vision and strategy for what we're going to do at Racket Sports included a hitting wall, an event kitchen, and a redo of center court. Those are now shelved because of cost concerns to stay within that $4 million. So this is an active project with some give and take, and that's where we are today.
Well, I really appreciate you all taking the time to tell me and everyone else what is going on, because the conversation on the street has it about $7.5 million. It's good to know what it really is. Thank you very much. I'm John Lassiter, and I have a question about the long range report. It's terrific. You teased in that to pay attention to information based upon gender and age, and you didn't speak to that in your data. So maybe you want to do that another time, but it'd be nice to kind of know what you see in the trend lines as how it kind of transforms itself. And then a request, when you provide the full data, can you give us a chance to read the cross-tabulations to see kind of what's happening within that data to kind of understand some of the nuance to where we think we're going as an island? So you can answer the second question, maybe you can come back, but it'd be good to understand where you think we're going based on our perspective and how old we are and what we look like.
Well, the report said that women are much smarter than men.
That's why I was afraid to walk up there.
Yeah, well, that's when we do that, John.
So any more questions? Because if not, I have one last comment. Bob Nurhood said $7.5 million is out in the street. So we've struggled with this issue of information out in the street. So I think we just posted yesterday or today in the drop-down menu on documents. Mitchell? Yes, documents. We have a new tab. It's called Fact versus Fiction. And so that's intended to be a living document. We put on it about 18 different categories of information. You know, how many members, how many rounds of golf, how many this, how many that, how many horse rides, how How much do we spend? How are we organized? Do we pay taxes? So as questions come up, it's intended to be the place to go when you see a number like 7.5 and then you go in and you read in the fact versus fiction, it's 4. Okay, so hopefully this will be a way to kind of stay channeled and measured in terms of the data that's out there about the club. Okay, no other questions? Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it very much.